过完新年后的第一场比赛是跟苏宁的，我觉得我应该在这过年放假的期间要多吃一点，长高一点，不然应该打不过对面。
苏宁的话就是他们来了的新中单，然后 Night， 还有就是之前 YM 的打野嘛天，然后就他们两个加入的话，就让苏宁打得更有进攻性吧，我觉得。然后，他们最近战绩也挺好的。
There you go, Mako really respectful towards his opponent. But Iboy, he wants to go get as tall as he can after Chinese New Year.
Make sure to eat your breakfast, Iboy. That's the only advice I can give you. Never skip breakfast and you might actually find yourself growing big and strong.
Yeah, make sure you get your wheat bix in there every single day. It's the breakfast for champions, apparently. But let's get into this second match of today. It's going to be EDG taking on Suning Gaming. EDG currently 5-1 in their conference. This is the first cross-conference match they're going to play. We're going straight into their lineups. Ray, Haro, Scout, Iboy, and Mako. That's going to be EDG.
And of course, still no clear love to be seen. It is Haro starting. We go over to Sunin Gaming on the opposite side. It is Xiaowel, Hacker, Night Fury, and Yoon down in the bottom lane.
And they're currently sitting at 4-2 in their respective conference. Also their first match coming into the cross-conference play after the Chinese New Year break. And they're both very similar teams in how they want to play. Both of them very good at the mid-game, portion of the current meta.
And I think the place that I would always start while we look at these very strong mid-game teams is the first time we are seeing EDG. So is their strength still going to be around the exact same area? Has Haro integrated better into the team along those lines as well? Always a place that you'd have to be looking towards because they are up against a team that'll play hard and fast. 32 minutes is the average game time from Sunin Gaming. They are quick. When they find opportunities to pounce, they will pounce wholeheartedly. And it was mentioned by Mako in the video as well. Tian adds an aggressive twist to the roster. Something that may become overwhelming, may actually overburden and pressure EDG if they can't keep their calm and actually wade through that.
It could be, and you already mentioned that Haro is a big focus point for EDG. They've got a lot of their core members still there, but Haro joining the team for this split, he really has to step up for EDG to bring them back to the former glory they had last year.
And Haro, one of the few Lee Sin players as well, actually running around in the LPL, showed it in one set that that was all he wanted to play in. Working alongside Mako, Haro is going to be doing a lot of the shot calling in the early game you would expect. Mako does carry a large brunt of that towards the later stages of the game, but ultimately Haro, he hasn't choked, he hasn't done anything exceptionally awful while he's in EDG, so overall he has been good so far. He's even had highlight moments, Baron steals, and able to make some big plays himself, and so far there has been a lot of promise from the jungler of EDG.
Has been fitting in well for them so far. On top of that, as mentioned, EDG currently 5-1 in their conference, with Snake dropping their games against Invictus Gaming. This is their chance to propel themselves to first place in their conference and try and fight against ING to see who's number one coming out of cross-conference. But looking at Suning Gaming, you really have to look towards Xiaoao as well as Knight, because these two players, they could be the focal points for their team.
And that's the place you have to look. Can Xiaoao go off? Can he beat Ray? Can the bottom lane actually rotate around the map? And can they go off themselves? The individual laners can be the reason that Suning Gaming beat EDG here today.
They're very similar on the ladder at the moment in terms of points. These two teams have very similar play styles as well, so it's going to be a very exciting best of three series between the two. Let's send it over to our casters to get into game number one.
Thank you, Fish. My name's Pulse. I'm going to be alongside Truskurian today. How are you doing, Trusk?
Pretty good. Excited to see EDG first time back from Chinese New Year.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we'll see if Iboy has grown up big and strong as he was promising us that through the Chinese New Year. But they will be facing down Suning Gaming today. Now, I feel like both of these two teams are going to hit hard when you get to that mid game. I feel like we're going to be waiting for 5-10 minutes, and then once we hit that mid game, everything's going to come together.
And that's the thing. When people are talking about EDG and Suning being comprehensive mid lane teams, it's their ability to identify objectives and then move the formula around the map. You know, they're never teams that really seem to get stalled out where you're watching them and thinking, okay, where do we go from here? What are we supposed to do? It always seems to have that next plan in action, and they don't plan things out 45 seconds. It's more like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes in advance that they're setting up these plays and then capitalizing on them.
Right, even if they get those advantages, you know, it's going to be set plays from here on out. But that makes it very difficult for a team like Suning Gaming. If they go up against EDG, they get the advantage, and then step by step by step, it almost seems like there's no way to crack the code once they have the advantage. So we'll see if EDG can capitalize on that, whether they can get that advantage in the early game, whether Suning Gaming can actually fight back. Because historically, we have seen so far that this team, they like their 1-4s, they like their 1-3-1s, they like to hit hard.
Yeah, a lot of versatility between both of them. It's the fact that they have massive champion pools and massive playbooks. Like you just said, they can run a 1-3-1, they can run a 1-4, they can run a 5v5. For me, I want to definitely focus in on the bottom lane. It's iBoy and Mako versus Fury and Yoon. And yeah, I know the analyst was talking about Knight and Hacker or Tian, you know, whatever revolving door in the jungle position that Suning want to play. But for me, Fury and Yoon cannot fall down to iBoy and Mako, because in the early game for EDG, it's always going to be around the bottom lane.
That would be tough, though, because it is iBoy and Mako at the end of the day, and we've definitely touted them as, if not the best, definitely in the top two of the LPL. Well, you definitely think they're the best. Of course, they are facing down other bottom lanes in the LPL, such as WE's bottom lane, but for how it's doing right now, with Ben especially not being there, I feel like by default they would at least get #1.
The only other contender really there is Uzi and Ming, especially after the shellacking they gave Mystic and Zero just yesterday, but that said, Zero came back in and things did stall out. So if it's not iBoy and Mako, then you'd have to say that it's Uzi and Ming, but I'm definitively going to say iBoy and Mako are the best bot lane in the LPL right now. They play everything, every different type of style, fast push, kill pressure, defensive. You cannot crack that code, and they are the core to EDG's success in the early game.
It's definitely not to say that, you know, the bottom lane is just out of it altogether. Fury and Yoon have very much been a power point so far for Suning Gaming, especially when they first joined the LPL. We were like, damn, this is a pretty strong bottom lane that can be the backbone of Suning.
Yeah, and they have a lot of creative there. I just talked about kind of the fast push strategy, the fact of how versatile EDG's bot lane. The exact same thing can be said to Fury and Yoon. Yes, they are known for kind of their recon performance from Yoon being a playmaking-oriented support, and I know that Fury has picked up that Caitlyn, that hyper carry, and they can play that fast push style, but if you leave them open to Ballista, they're also going to grab that. So coming into draft and preparing for both these teams, I kind of just threw everything out the window. I was like, you know, anything can go. These guys have massive champion pools. They don't just conform to one style or one gimmick or type of trick to win the game, and it's why I'm actually very excited for Suning versus EDG, because there is so much diversity here.
Do you expect to see priority on the bottom lanes then? If it's so important that the bottom lane has to win, do you think we'll see priority from Suning?
No, I definitely think there will still be priority in the jungle, which will be dominated by EDG, simply because if there is one weak point in terms of champion pools that you want to attack on the side of EDG, it's in that jungle position. The joke is that Haro was a coin flip player. He's either going to play the Jarvan or the Kha'Zix. He's recently expanded his pool. The last time we saw them grabbing things like the Rengar, but still very much in that same type of kill pressure-oriented jungler vein. We'll see if over Chinese New Year he's picked up some new tricks, because that's kind of the one weakness in terms of draft that EDG had to target on.
So if that is the case, placing down a bunch of jungle bans onto him as we get into a first phase right here. Because everywhere else on the map, very big champion pools. They'll be facing down Hacker today. Hacker, in fact, has only played 3 champions himself so far in the LPL, so we haven't seen a whole bunch from him so far, so let's see if anything comes out. Skarner's going to be the first ban from EDG. We saw that bunch in our first series of the day, and Sejuani's going to be the same. So double jungle bans actually coming out from EDG.
And it does mean that a jungle priority pick becomes that much more important. We have big picks like the Jarvan, which is still available. EDG also like to go for the Ballista. So again, you never really know how to attack them or what strategy they're going to execute on, because they have every available option. But that is 3 mid lane bans against Scout.
Yeah, Ryze, Azir, and Zoe towards Scout right here. And Tam Kench was the final ban for EDG, aimed at Yoon in the bottom lane as well to try and get the priority down there. So we will not be able to sit along these immobile AD carries and just pick them up, drag them to safety. We've seen a lot of Jinx starting to come back into the meta, but that has left up open Camille, which will be first picked by EDG.
And I really love this as a priority pick because it is a flex pick. In the LPL, just like in the LCK, we are flexing Camille between the jungle and top lane position. Both Ray and Haro can play it. Like I said, Haro's wheelhouse tends to be those aggressive, kill-oriented junglers. Camille certainly fits in that wheelhouse.
Now, Jax is going to be the priority actually from Suning Gaming here, and that's
a flex with the
very
flex.
interesting. Yeah, meeting a flex with a flex, but you know, this was a priority. It wasn't that he was forced onto the pick here.
And I would expect their second pick to grab the Varus. He's kind of been the big ADC. That said, with Ballista still available, maybe things get more interesting. I would not expect that, though.
That would be shocking to lock in a jungler immediately after the Jax pick, but Brom will be the pick in the end for Yoon, so actually just looking to secure that bottom lane here.
Yeah, and currently Mako's #1 play champion in the Brom. They've been very reliant on having a champion that not only stalls out fast pushes, but then also brings kill pressure towards the bottom lane, which makes sense for such a hard carry support like Mako.
But EDG, they are definitely setting up for these team fights. You've got Camille flying in, you've got Galio on top of that, and you have iBoy's Cogmore to start off this draft. So just very solid so far from EDG.
And the thing is that with the Camille pickup, it's really hard to try to match Kog'Maw's pressure in lane by picking the Ballista. That's one of the few AD carries that can try to match him and go for kill pressure, especially with Braum. But when you have Camille who can just jump onto top of Callista and lock her down, it makes teams have less incentive to look towards that pick. So I actually really like the Kog'Maw in tandem with the Camille to deny any sort of 2v2 advantage or pressure.
Yeah, Suning going to have to go elsewhere now for that AD carry pick, but they will pick up the Corki for the mid lane, so Knight's going to get his hands on that one before we look towards these next couple of bans. Suning actually driving down the timer will be a Taric ban towards Mako, so very much recognizing that the EDG are looking to start grouping here with this iBoy Kog'Maw pick.
Yeah, they're trying to take away all of his playmaking ability, which is very clever because EDG did decide to ban Tahm Kench from blue side, didn't want to use the priority pick on that. Like we said, had the flex pick of the Camille, so it makes sense why they would take it away, but Suning are just punishing that. Okay, you banned the Tahm Kench, we're going to grab the Braum. It's going to be a higher priority than Varus even. Rusty talked at the top of the day why Varus was so valuable. I expect that he'll be banned second alongside the Caitlyn, but we'll see. And now you ban a Taric, and you could also start targeting out things like the Alistar if you really wanted to. Like, you could completely defang Mako.
And there you go. There's the Alistar already gone, and plus the Tahm Kench has been removed earlier by EDG, so that support pool has definitely narrowed significantly, unless Mako wanted to go for something like a Thresh now.
Ooh, don't tempt me, Pulse. I would love to see Mako's Thresh come out.
Yeah. I would like that as well. I don't know, I just have a weird gut feeling. But Varus, there you go. Prediction queen right here. Varus will be the final ban out towards Suning Gaming now.
And of course, the last big viable ADC left is going to be the Xayah. I would expect that they would pick it up to continue to hide that Jax as a flex pick between the top lane and the jungle. And see if they can just get that last red side counter pick to really give them some sort of strong breaking point either in the jungle or the top side.
At least find something. Still hovering the Xayah, haven't locked it in just yet, Suning. Now swapping up to the Ezreal, and actually choose to lock it in. So it will be an Ezreal pick down there for Fury, alongside of Braum as well. So now back over to EDG. They have their AD carry. They still need some support. We'll see if they pick that last, but it's on the same rotation regardless.
Not a lot of damage coming out of Suning's composition. Yeah, they have a Jax, but he really hasn't been getting off the ground as well as he's needed to, especially when he slots into that jungle position. We'll see if he goes up into the top side just to give him a bit more gold value. But right now, Suning, a lot of their damage is coming out strictly from Corki at this point.
This is interesting. EDG actually lock in the Scion, so that will go towards the top lane. The Camille now locked into the jungle for Harrow. Now we need to support as well from EDG.
I would love to see Lulu. People always forget about how devastating Lulu Kog'Maw can be at Worlds. You could not give this lane together. Kog'Maw now just wins lanes by himself because we still are on 8.2. He has a massive power spike on a single item. With Whimsy, with picks, and with Kog'Maw W, he is doing ridiculous amounts of damage. EDG, we said it's all about their bottom lane. They have sculpted a winning 2v2.
Yeah, this would be fantastic for EDG, and it's exactly what they've locked in here. Now, I am, of course, getting a little distracted for us, Kieran, because there is currently a hover. Ah, rest in peace. But that is definitely a potential pickup that you could go into Sion right here. Yalawi has seen some play into the Sion pick as it has emerged worldwide, but just going to go safe here. It's just going to be the Cho'Gath in the end for Xiao Ao.
And it's curious what type of rune set we're going to see from the Sion. We've seen a bunch of different mixtures. Rusty, again, was talking about them on the desk. Usually when you have kind of the poking comment Sion, Cho'Gath can deal with this because he has a lot of built-in sustain. He can kind of compete with the wave clear, so maybe that's what Xiao is expecting. Is like, okay, this top side is just going to be a wash, and it's about now who's going to contribute more post-lane phase. And with the Cho'Gath, at least you have Baron priority as well as another source of big nuke damage.
Yeah, at this point, you're both just going to get out of lane regardless because Cho'Gath just fights the mana pool, essentially, from Sion in the top lane. So we'll probably won't be looking at that one for the first 15 minutes of the game. It will very much more be about the junglers, the mid lane, and even the bottom lane now from both teams.
Yeah, keyword for me is going to be the junglers. I know I just said it was all about EDG's bot lane, and don't worry, the junglers will get down to bot lane, as well as all of the teleports at around 8 minutes in. But Camille versus Jax, the LPL has been having a big problem getting Jax off the ground and getting him successful. Today we saw a very greedy and very early Trinity Force build coming out of Jax, full damage, and again, you just really don't have the resources if you don't get snowballed from that position. We'll see if Hacker is a bit luckier here, but looking at his lanes, you know, there's not a very clear break point here. He's got a Corki in the mid lane versus a Galio, like there's virtually no kill pressure there. Cho'Gath versus Sion in the top lane, why waste your time with that? And then he's looking at a Camille, and if Camille gets the jump on you, it's really hard to trade even there.
And this was a priority on the Jax as well. It's not like it was picked later and it was like, now is the time to lock this in. It was very early on into the drafts coming out from Suning, and he has a pretty abysmal win rate in the LPL. It's like 2-9 right now. People cannot make this pick work.
Yeah, it's just not getting off the ground. That said, Suning are one of the few teams where they do not fall into the same traps come mid-game. So if their Jax falls behind, I would have more confidence that this team would be able to, A, itemize correctly on him when switching it up towards more of the LCK tank-oriented Jax that we've seen, rather than the full damage LPL, and get him online.
Now, when is that actually going to happen? We'll take a look as we get onto the Rift right here. With the EDG taking on Suning Gaming. EDG, first game back after the Chinese New Year. We'll see what they're made of. Have they improved? Because they were definitely doing that before the Chinese New Year, getting better and better. But Suning Gaming, it's going to be a tall task to take on EDG, who have actually not played as many games as many teams in the LPL so far, that they are pretty much just playing catch-up right now.
Yeah, both these teams are kind of sitting in the exact same scenario, in which it's also Suning's first game back from Chinese New Year. They're two middle-of-the-pack ranked teams in terms of the standings, and they're both what I would call very intelligent teams. I would almost go as far to say as these are our smartest macro-oriented teams in the LPL. Of course, when they do make mistakes and when you do want to punish their weaknesses, for EDG, you're looking at Haro. Rusty was talking about on the desk that, yes, he's made, those miracle Elder Dragon steals and the Baron steals, but usually he's forced into a situation where he needs to make the miracle play because he somehow fumbles early game pathing, puts himself at a deficit, and is constantly playing catch-up. And then on the other side for Suning, it's a very similar story. It's, the constant revolving door. Is it Tian? Is it Hacker? Why are they subbing him out? Are we fumbling our jungle pathing? We're fumbling our itemization. So both junglers really have a redemption story in this series.
Oh yeah, for sure. Trying to get away from that hit or miss nature that we see out from these junglers. Just looking towards the top lane, Ray has gone for Glacial Augment on the Scion, which is definitely not something that we see every day. Typically we'll see the Comet, but almost looks like he sees the Cho'Gath and say, well, I'm not poking him out of lane anyway, so I'll go for something more utility that will help me out further down the line.
Yeah, and this is, again, what Rusty was talking about earlier with Scion, and it helps him a lot with his Q, and it's kind of been the 50-50 between the Scions. Either they go for the Glacial Augment or they go for the Comet.
Yep, so chaining up just a little here. Haro going to be going on to his second buff onto the bottom side. Both junglers actually pathing towards the bottom here. We'll see if they'll actually meet head-to-head, and Camille should have the slight advantage.
Here's the other thing. In the LPL, the last few series that we've watched over the course of week number 4, all the junglers were starting on the bottom side. I remember distinctly turning to Raz and being like, why is the LPL jungler starting on the bottom side? Normally, globally, you see a lot more top side starts just because it's so important to get these bottom lanes started off.
The flash forwards coming in for the hook shot. What was that damage? Yeah, and we were both looking and I was like, well, he's got a couple more seconds. No, he's just dead.
Wow. Yeah, so I continue to talk there because usually as the Gullet caster, we don't expect someone to just straight up die like that. I was like, oh, he's probably going to burn a flash. We'll have to cover, what that means for the jungle pathing secondary. But no, just straight out of the gate. First blood for Haro on champion like Camille. That is massive there. It's also the teleport and flash down for Knight. So that is a huge target on this Corki's back.
That is gigantic and fantastic mechanics as well from Haro, but it was started off by Scout here.
And again, it's this top side pathing. Not only does it allow your bot lanes to get to the lane first and start controlling the wave, but it makes your jungle gank path that much more unpredictable. And Camille, just like Rek'Sai, has very interesting angles into lanes. And if you're not used to facing Camille jungle, she can catch you off guard with the hook shot.
Yeah, it was fantastic coming in with a flash after that one, and then we'll look to try and follow up on that one. But though we can see the keystones once again, the Glacial Augment for Scion, but also going towards Resolve second. He's got the second win and conditioning right here. So really is just looking forward, he's prospecting, because nothing is really going to happen in the laning phase.
And it's the nice thing about Scion is he's kind of an unmovable tank up into the top side. I believe Khan had the quote where he said, playing against Scion makes me want to poop blood. That is quote, unquote, from Khan.
Yeah, I definitely don't disagree.
You don't often get to say that on broadcast.
It's a player quote, man.
And I took it.
Knight still poking back Scout, but managing to keep equal and farm. He's actually gone for the cull to start off as well.
I do want to quickly pop back to the Scion, though, because an interesting point is while he has been a terror in the lane phase, not just in the LPL, but also globally, the LPL has really struggled to make Scion work in the team fight phase, which you would think, why is that? We should be really good at having this giant choo-choo train that just drives in and says, we're going to start the fight here. We have a really hard time hitting the ultimate, and a lot of our fights are, you know, those counter gank moments. It's the reflex. Okay, there's a skirmish that's starting, I need to ult in, as opposed to more of the Korean LCK style where things are set up and then the Sion gets to use his mobility with his ultimate to find advantageous 4v5s. And that's what the LPL has really struggled with. But I'm hoping that EDG get a different look from Sion because they are a team that like to set up plays further in advance. It's not just about the immediate, you know, we gotta turn it around, counter gank.
Yeah, Mako just having to burn his flash there, finding himself slightly out of position in the bottom lane. But it's really down to the mechanics as well. Like when we saw the Shy on that Sion, he had mastered the wall drift. And that is something that is so unique to Sion. Like if you were able to master that, you can make some really odd angles work with the ultimate to get those engages
Turn it
off.
on like a right 90-degree angle. You're like, I don't think that's supposed to work like that.
But it's a mechanic, and you know some of these players really have mastered it, and that is a way to work that into these fights. But both these junglers actually finding themselves face-to-face. Hacker clears out that zombie ward, but will actually just get priority over this one. Haro doesn't want to take this insane trade against Hacker.
Yeah, and the reason why is because it's also that Knight has priority in the mid lane. Scout doesn't have his teleport, recently burned it, but Corki had the push, and so that's why Hacker had the confidence to step forward into Haro's jungle.
Yeah, Scout also lower mana, so he'd barely have enough for the ultimate, and once he'd arrive, that's pretty much all you'd have, so not be able to challenge there. You know, I always like when we look at the top lane, but this is one of those matchups where literally nothing is going to happen for 15 minutes. So
blood.
yeah, exactly. So I'd much rather look towards this mid lane. I want to see how these guys lane, look towards the bottom lane as well. We haven't gotten any backs from the bottom lane. It's just all Kleptomancy. Fury is full item build and hasn't gone back to base yet.
I promised everyone action around 8 minutes. It's now 6:30 right now. If EDG are still on their same clock, what should happen is Scout will get back into lane. He's going to take control over the creep wave, and then he's going to use that priority to start slipping deep vision over Suning's blue buff that's about to spawn. And then we'll play around these two.
Onto the bottom lane, out from Suning, but now we'll have to back away as iBoy's going to get a lot of damage from this, actually. Fury having to burn their heal and flashes away. He's dead! Mako finds the kill. The Hell Pix was enough damage.
And, you know, I was giving credit to Fury and Yoon. I was like, okay, you can't fall down to iBoy and Mako, but if anyone could do it, if any 2v2, I would have faith in Fury and Yoon. And Mako and iBoy just stomped on them, just showcasing why Lulu and Kog'Maw is such a disgusting combo.
Man, the weirdest 2 kills to start the game. It's just like, nah, he shouldn't be dead, and he just dies, like, fade-away kills. Also got the Airy on Mako, so it was all that extra follow-up damage after the initial auto-attack from iBoy.
Now, that said, because Kog'Maw is going to break his itemization into an early Rage Blade and have the AD and attack speed as well as a Cole, even though Fury died right there and he doesn't have the Summoner spells, he's still in a great spot in the lane. He's got his tier, he's also got his Sheen more importantly. So in terms of just raw trading poking power, as long as he's able to proc that Sheen, he's going to be okay. The big deficit is the fact that he doesn't have his flash, and if that wave ever gets in a position where he feels unsafe, EDG will punish him for it.
The barrier comes up and Fury is just like, I immediately regret my decision, but actually plays pretty greedy with the summoners and decides to walk back towards iBoy. That was probably the nail in the coffin right there.
Yeah, he was keeping track of the Kog'Maw auto attacks, but he didn't see the help picks. The fadeaway Lulu shot is what got him. Remember what I said? How we were going to set our triangle vision over this blue buff for Suning? There it is.
Haro's already in there as well. We'll now back away. So Hacker actually clearing out some of these wards. He does have that pink ward down. But really wants to try and get this one over tonight before anything really erupts, because first dragon of the game is also going to be Infernal. So.
And the thing is EDG don't want to pull the trigger because, again, the itemization of Kog'Maw. It takes him a while before he hits that first item power spike, and you can see that he's now holding the wave, trying to punish Fury without his flash.
Hang on a second. Hacker's going to walk into this bottom side, and he definitely saw that ward go down.
He should not do this.
Yeah, back away. Hits the blast cone.
And by he, I mean Haro. What I was talking about is iBoy's not quite there yet, and then just a raw 3v3, depending on how many of these Mystic shots hits, it's just too close to call to kind of risk a lot of your early game on trying to force a play right there. So I'd rather EDG be patient, give it some time. iBoy's already got a lead. He's got control of the minion wave down into the bot lane. Like, your time will come, EDG, for bot side.
Yeah, wait for the spike to happen. And we're 9 minutes in and 2 kills have already gone over to EDG in these small skirmishes, and also Haro getting involved in that mid lane. So as soon as they do want to go, they've got Scout, he's got teleport, Ray will have his teleport back as well, and Scout can get involved with the ultimate. So there are ways to instantly turn it on. So don't need to be too aggressive right now. Looking towards Suning Gaming though. Fury, as you said, is just stacking up. He has the Sheen, he has the Tia.
Yeah, and
also got the
Hacker
Sheen from Knight.
using 2 deep defensive control wards to actually try to slip down into this bottom. So as Lulu and Kog'Maw continue to push forward, they are still in kill threat if Jax and Braum do happen to jump on them, which is what they're looking for right now.
Whoa, actually looking for this bot lane gank. Mako double knock-up, but he's still just locked in place. Fury's going to find that kill, and iBoy was trying to do as much return fire as possible, but doesn't have the damage right now.
Yeah, I saw that Knight. You teleported into that backside, had the package. He was like, if it turns into a counter gank from Camille, I'm here, guys.
Yeah, but it was just
Forward
the one
thinking.
kill. It was, yes, he was thinking ahead, but in the end, Suning Game will just pick up that 1 kill onto the bottom lane, and that first kill also went over to Mako, so it's not the worst for Fury, and also picking that kill back means that he's probably now even in gold.
Well, this is what I was talking about with Suning and EDG kind of being the quote-unquote smartest teams in the LPL. That was Suning just having a good read, you know. Mako and iBoy, they've got a lot of defensive neutral vision and control throughout the river. They've got some offensive vision in our jungle. But with our 2 defensive control wards, we've created a trail into the back of our lane, and we can punish this aggression from Kog'Maw and Lulu.
Right now I'm just looking towards Hacker as well. He's trying to place down his own vision just down the river, but it's definitely not the same. Looking towards top lane as well, and just farming up, looking towards the Abyssal Mask from both players. Mid lane, Scout pushing in.
That was also a very late package from Knight. That was 9 minutes, 10 minutes in?
Yep.
See how EDG play around that timing when Corki doesn't have the package available. On your screen, you can see, of course, Knight's Corki score. Corki driving up in the meta, and that can only mean good things when you have a DPM and a KDA like that.
Yep, Knight's Corki, pretty good. See what he can do in this game, because if you look in terms of damage, a lot of the damage is going to have to be on him this game. Looking towards that Corki. When we get into these team fights, Hacker also challenging the wards once again with Knight with the push in mid lane. Gives a chance for Suning there's bottom lane to also push up around this dragon.
Yeah, the plan is that with the Trinity Force power spike, they're starting to feel more comfortable edging their way around the Infernal Drake, and then EDG are just reacting to this pressure. So all of the vision that was just placed from Suning, EDG are now moving back into the river and trying to clear out as much of it as possible, and then also place down their own neutral vision. But it's a tug of war right now over Infernal as both teams are starting to hit, you know, initial power spikes on certain champions across the map.
I mean, you definitely want to favor the double Triforce if Suning Gaming are able to hit it, though. iBoy is getting a chance to free fire on the bottom lane from Suning Gaming. Do not want to get chunked before either team makes a play towards that dragon. And
the Kog'Maw and the Lulu are the big power point right now. They're kind of like the last line of defense before Suning just walk over and snatch the Infernal Drake because of how forward they're playing and locking down this 2v2. Likewise, the threat of Galio wandering down and helping out that Kog'Maw. So he's not on his item break point, but he is what Suning are afraid of.
Yeah, great warding out there from Suning Gaming as well, because now Haro is actually wasting a bunch of time. However, the fact that he is in bot side, he will just walk up to the tower, and Hacker's in the top side of the map, so he's unable to contest. In fact, we're looking at a dive from Xiao Ao, because he's got Knight on his way. It's going to take a while. He's taking a bunch of damage out from this tower. Ray finally flashes away now and turns around, trying to clear out this minion wave, actually making it harder for Suning Gaming to look for the dive.
And this is taking way too long from Suning, but they have to commit. Desperation.
And now they jump in, but Xiao Ao's already low. It's going to be Knight who's tanking the tower, but Ray, he had the stopwatch still there, plays that so well.
Beautifully done by Ray. Suning, they try to commit. It's desperation. What they're trying to do is just trade tower for tower. But unfortunately, we talked about that Infernal Drake. It takes too long. They don't even get the kill. They do force him off and get the tower, but Infernal and tower advantage to EDG.
Next dragon's also going to be another Infernal. So if EDG maintain control of that bottom side, because they've also just taken the tower, so it will be easier for them to do so.
And that's the scary thing. What, 6 minutes? So it's a 19, 30, 20-minute dragon. Kog'Maw for sure is going to have 2 completed items. He spikes really hard on 1. So when that second Infernal comes up, guess who's going to be really strong? EDG.
Once again. And unfortunate, because it feels like we're missing these timings now from Suning Gaming, and we look towards the gold lead, and actually Suning Gaming do have a little, but when you look forwards, it's like the prospects don't look too good for Suning Gaming. You know, we've already got this Triforce out from Knight. That wasn't a time that we can fight. Maybe Fury will have his Triforce around that time. Maybe that's another time we can fight, but it will be around these dragons.
Yeah, it's about where the gold is allocated. All of that advantage for Suning is on Corki in the mid lane. And yeah, Corki is their big primary damage dealer, does have its Trinity Force complete, but he's still a very expensive build path away from being that big terror and hard carry that Corki is able to be.
It's very much a late game dream. The Scout will get himself a blue buff here, courtesy of Haro. also get to see the area around Herald, so we'll be clearing out a bunch of these wards in the next couple of seconds.
And that's the thing. We've now swapped, so our top laners, we're playing Australian lanes, are in the bottom side, our bot laners are in the top side, and we're playing around the Rift Herald now. But because Kog'Maw has the completed Rage Blade, and Ezreal's still waiting for his items to stack, this is EDG picking what they want. Are we going to get chip damage and continue to abuse Fury and Yoon in an isolated 2v2, or are we eventually going to get bored of trying to feed creeps into this tower and just grab the Rift Herald and try to break mid?
Move towards it. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, eventually Ray is going to erode down Xiao's health, but he will have the minion wave there to get a lot of it back with his passive, so that will pretty much neutralize. It's more about this top side where Haro is hunting. Hookshot comes out,
This
and
is
the Herald has been angered.
a very scary situation for Suning. One toe out of position here could mean a possible 2-tower break as well as a Rift Herald. So right now they're just trying to grasp for control over neutral vision and defensive vision. And they're trying to set a trap.
Fury loses almost all of his health in an instant to iBoy and Mako, and that is the spike coming out from the Gwynsues. He got a chance to sack up in the minion wave, and then just turns it on towards Fury.
And Corki needs to help them. They can't just have the Jax. And finally, Knight's going to move, but then here comes Sion using that mobility. This is about to be 5-min
Whoa,
top.
Haro looking for it, comes in with the ultimatum as well, and Scout on top of it, and it comes in, splattered against the windshield. Down goes Fury, and Hacker now trapped in place as well. Tries to buy a bit of time. He'll flash away, but in comes Haro once more. Yoon also with the stopwatch, but unfortunately, there is a decimating smash over you, so he'll go down. 2 kills to EDG.
Yeah, and Xiao uses the TP into the back line, but should have TP'd to the inner tower instead of the outer one. It's going to be the free structure for EDG as well as some pocket change on a lot of those kills and the Rift Herald priority.
Which means even more tempo over to EDG now. The ball is in their court for the next play, and Suning Gaming are pretty much just having to dance to EDG's beat right now, as iBoy will get yet another minion wave. They're actually choosing to just feed this Kog'Maw as much as they can.
They want to make sure that the wave hits the tower, not necessarily to bounce it, but just to deny as much possible CS.
Meanwhile, in the mid lane, looking to make a play onto Scout. He loses almost all of his health instantly. Feast comes down, but we've bought time for Ray to come into the mid lane. Bounces back, though, and unfortunately will go down. So another kill over to Suning. They will get at least that in the mid lane, and maybe that will stop the Rift Herald play.
That was actually a really cool prediction, but we're going to go ahead and see a replay of this. Flash and then automatic grab on Ezreal. And that's the thing. I understand grabbing Ezreal as opposed to a more stationary or traditional ADC because he does have that added mobility. But like we said, Camille versus Kalista, basically as soon as you see the Camille, you can't pick the Kalista. It's kind of the same thing for Ezreal. She's going to jump on you. She's going to lock you down. Your mobility's not going to save you. And so then you're sacrificing your late game damage potential by picking a champion like Ezreal and not making the most out of your mobility simply because of the priority flex pick of Camille.
And for now, that kill in the mid lane did prevent the Herald, so EDG will have to set up once again if they want to move towards that objective. They don't have that much longer because it's 17 minutes 40, so we've got around 2 minutes left if they want to try and make a play towards the Herald, or whether they just want to group mid and try and knock down this last remaining outer turret from Suning. Though iBoy himself is actually very threatening, able to step forwards with this Biocane Barrage.
He's going to need help to try to clear it. Right now, the Iceborne Gauntlet has completed, as well as the Trinity Force, so between Ezreal and Corki's wave clear, they would be able to hold this mid lane unless something just catastrophic happened, like maybe a Scion or, runs up and does a dive, but that's still very risky at this point. I think EDG have to go towards the Herald just so they have a tool to crack mid.
Almost drawing Suning Gaming out as well. Ray does not have teleport, neither does Xiao, so this will be a 4v4 at maximum. They do move towards that, and what they did for Vision, they haven't actually closed in around it just yet. Scout actually wanting to take this time to go back to base. Does have the ult, does have the teleport as well, so we'll be able to get involved at a moment's notice.
This will kind of tell us the communication that EDG have. I know that previously, before Chinese New Year, Mako was getting frustrated with iBoy because he wasn't listening to the calls as much. Again, like Rusty was talking about on the analyst test, Mako takes a lot of that burden of the shot calling for EDG, controls all of their vision calling. He did that when Clearlove was on the roster. He now definitely does that as the sole captain. And so if EDG continue to kind of sit mid and just play a safety net for iBoy to funnel in creeps, then that tells me that iBoy is being very greedy and saying, we could go for the Rift Herald, but I actually just want this farm, and you're actually going to give up the Herald and just sit next to me so I can continue to absorb more waves and get farther and farther ahead of this Ezreal. 209 to 172 right now. Or Mako's going to have his way, the team's going to have their way, and they're going to play around the objective.
However, Suning Gaming, they're already around the Inferno Dragon. Seems like a bit of a miss here from EDG unless they're able to get the engage up because it's down to 2,000 HP. It will fall to Suning Gaming. Feast comes up, but here's the engage now out from the Scion. Lock up onto 2, and Haka, he's not in a good place. Ray and Haro jump on top of his face. He'll be falling. Massive damage coming in from Precision Protocol. Knight jumps away, but not to safety because Ray comes in as well to stick him down. In comes the Living Artillery, and Ray finds yet another kill. 3 kills to EDG at the expense of the Infernal Dragon.
I mean, Suning, they've got a composition that is going to outscale them, that is already ahead, so I understand. You have to make plays happen, otherwise you're just going to passively watch yourself lose the game. They make the right call. They are on top of the Infernal as soon as it spawns, and they have the idea, just burn it and turn. Unfortunately, we were talking about earlier, the 1930 20-minute Dragon would mean that Kog'Maw would have the correct itemization, that EDG would be a powerhouse, and you saw it right there. Even though they weren't on time for the Infernal, they were on time for the team fight, were able to force it, and just cleaned Suning's clock.
Yeah, a couple seconds earlier, and they probably would have gotten just both right there, but Cho'Gath's Feast did secure it, and in the end, it was 3 kills. As you can see, we have a pause, so we'll see what that's about in a couple seconds for you. We know as much as you do currently. But yeah, EDG winning yet another fight, getting more of a gold influx. And while the Infernal's nice for Suning Gaming, they have to get very late in the game for it to be good for them. You know, EDG, the fact that they have so much gold over them means they have the item advantage. And in these next fights, will probably just win by default.
Now, the good news is that if they get aced here, oh wait, no, it's 20 minutes. I was going to say they can't immediately just turn towards the Baron, especially with their tanks such high health. Because with the Kog'Maw, they could just burn that.
With 2 items, like Guinsoo's Wit's End will destroy Baron pretty much by itself. He has % damage, so that is something they could look towards. I
mean, either way, Suning are about to lose big. They're going to lose their mid lane tower at very least, possibly a bigger monster objective depending on where EDG go from this point. I still like the play from Suning. I like the call. I agree with it. They had to do something. An Infernal Dragon is a big prize to pick up, especially when you have a quirky Ezreal composition. Just unfortunately, they weren't able to get away from the Scion. And finally, like I said, we have an LPL team that is actually using Scion effectively. And
right.
Thank God it's Ray. This guy has been a godsend of top laners. I know I just talked about the Shy and Flandre the other day being the 2 best top laners in the league. Ray is right there. I simply just don't have enough tape of him to really give him the accolades that we've seen from the Shy and Flandre's massive history.
I mean, the thing with Ray is he's just so diverse, right? Like, EDG, this is the first time they're playing with a top laner who can literally do anything. He can play a tank, he can play a carry, he can do all that. He has the deepest champion pool in the LPL currently for top laners with 8. Xiao is close behind with 7, but this guy can play anything, and he always plays well. Like, he's on Scion right now, and there's 2-0-2.
I mean, he was the big breaking point for EDG Suning. They tried to trade objectives. They tried to commit to the top lane. Ray got away, slowed them down, and gave EDG the initial tempo advantage. But we said it was going to be one thing or the other, either the mid lane tower or the Baron, and it is going to be the Baron.
And the Baron probably means the mid lane tower in a couple seconds as well once they go back to base with this. So Baron at 20 minutes. I don't know if that was our fastest Baron, but it's got to be close for this split at least. EDG literally just turn onto it, burn it down, and then Kog'Maw is now on 2.5 items plus his boots.
And from Ray's perspective, the Doom Train himself, great choke point, cuts them off, make sure that they can't just walk out of this, and then it's just so hard to get away from a Camille, Galio, Scion composition. The amount of soft CC and displacements on this team comp is disgusting.
And once you're locked down by one thing, which is point and click, then you are just going to be dead. There is no way you can get away from it. So the carry is going to have a tough time this game for Suning Gaming. And mid tower also soon to follow now from EDG. Looking towards Hacker real quick because he has gone for the Cinderhawk, but looks like he's moving towards the Triforce now. So he is going for the damage build in the jungle.
A very greedy build. And when you get ahead, it works, but you know, normally you're using Jax as a big kind of superficial tank line. The fact that he can use his dodge, and then he's also got you know, tank itemization on him makes it very hard to kill. He's got some good CC, the ability to dive into a backline, but when you're playing with such an expensive build path and you fall this far behind this early, it just hurts. Like, there is nothing Hacker can do for his team right now unless he gets isolated in a 1v1 with very specific members, like basically Lulu.
Yeah, he has to just ask someone for a gentleman's fight. It's like, meet me at Dragon and we'll 1v1.
But he's like,
one by one.
Not Camille.
Apart from you.
And not Galio. And not Kog'Maw.
But anyone else, I will fight you at Dragon.
He's like, basically Mako.
in a couple seconds when I have Triforce. So yeah, Hacker unable to do a whole lot in this, especially in a siege situation right here. iBoy is able to step up with all these shields on top of him. Scout pressuring from the side with the Winds of War. And it's just not a lot they can do. Yoon is actually just losing all of his health to iBoy, who's able to step forward and destroy Xiao Ao, take him down to half. Knight almost falls as well. iBoy is just a one-man army right here as Haro is looking to jump on somebody. Comes the ultimate out from Ray, but he's just zoning. That's all he's got to do. So EDG can push from outer mid to the inhibitor in one push.
Yeah, and Scout's got the top wave going as well as the tower, so this is very easy for Mako just to walk his dog and be like, okay, mid lane's down, and we're just going to go top lane.
Wow, yeah. And still minions there as well. Another minion wave about to crash, but Scout, he just needs someone to turn up and knock it over for him. So 23 minutes and 6 towers have gone down from EDG. It's just one play after another. And this is one of the problems we highlighted in Champions State for Suning Gaming. If EDG get ahead, it's just the playbook is perfect. They go from one play to another, to objective, and it's so hard to find your way in once they're rolling.
And the thing is Pulse, when you and I were talking, you know, over dinner, preparing for this game, we both agreed that this was going to be a very quick series, but we felt it was going to be close. And even though this looks like EDG are just absolutely clapping Suning, because they are, this is kind of how I expected the series to go, because both these teams are so good at the formula of League of Legends, you know, don't pass go without collecting $200, that if any of them got ahead, it would just be this really beautiful, orchestrated, you know, sprint towards the finish line. And I expected very, like, 20-minute game, 20-minute game, 20-minute game. So glad to see that that's exactly what's happening. It just kind of feels like EDG are the better Suning.
Well, that's the problem, right? Because soon in gaming, if they miraculously manage to get those early kills, you're absolutely right. We could see the same game, but in reverse. But that's the problem. EDG do that early game part super well because they get that advantage so they can use the rest of the playbook.
Yeah, I just don't want people to see Suning just getting spanked like this and be like, Suning are a bad team. No, so I assure you, Suning made good plays here. They tried to make the correct trades. They tried to get something happening for them. It's just, unfortunately, this was the nature of this series. Is here goes Haro.
So now it's just play after play. In comes the Galio. The 4-man knockup comes in, and Haro is able to wipe out Xiao Ao. This is not even going to be close. This is a massacre as EDG run down every single member of Suning Gaming. Knight may be able to get one in return, but Mako's here to try and defend the shield, the flash away. Mako, he's too smooth.
Hero Mako digs out Haro when he decides to dig a little bit too deep, but this might be the game before 25 minutes.
Oh man, the nail in the coffin I feel like has already been hammered. Fury up in 13 seconds. Yoon and Knight now just trying to back away to the Nexus and back away to their spawn pad, because right now you pretty much just want to try and save your KDA. EDG onto both Nexus turrets, they're both down onto the Nexus itself, and it was just play after play after play, unable to upset the rhythm. Suning Gaming will lose game 1 and EDG will take it.
And it really started from draft phase. I like the priority of Camille using as a flex, giving Haro another champion to his champion coin, but it's just pretty classic EDG. iBoy on your screen. It was all about the Kog'Maw.
Yeah, it really was. It's as simple as that for us, Kieran. The Kog'Maw came in, and pretty much we saw that from the first 3 picks coming in from EDG. It was like, well, this is a protect the X composition right here, isn't it? The Camille comes in, and you've got the front line to follow. EDG, just a classic composition out from them, and unfortunately, even though the Tarek was banned later, there was not a lot Suning Gaming could do from that.
And do not mistake me. A lot of analysts will look at this draft and be like, the Jarvan was available. Why didn't Suning put a hacker on Jarvan and try to get him a jungler that was going to have more priority or the ability to actually get something done? Why go for the Jax? Because it's easy to pick on the Jax. But, you know, I don't necessarily mind it. I like the idea. Camille's a flex pick. You then also pick up a flex pick because it offers in your draft and unlocks the ability that someone should get a good matchup. I think where you start to have issues then is then they followed it up with the Cho'Gath. So if that was kind of the best matchup that you were going to get, you know, then you can have some problems with the Jax. But collectively, I think Suning started with the better idea, but EDG just kind of beat them throughout the entire draft between Camille and Sion.
It's definitely a pick that's still in development, I would say, for the LPL. The Jax has only managed to find 2 wins and just continues to lose game after game after game. And also it's a priority in this game. You know, Hacker wasn't particularly pressured. There was a couple of jungle bans towards him, but that was his decision, right? You know, he decides to go towards the Jax, decided to go towards this more damage-orientated build, unable to do anything really in the end.
Definitely, you can definitely put a spotlight on Hacker there, because that was, like you said, 100% his choice to be like, okay, we're behind Trinity Force. But ultimately, like, in in a draft, he may have just taken the bullet for his team, where it's like, okay, we're going to force you under the Jax so Xiao Al can get the champion that he wants, and then he's the hero.
Yeah, you know, and try and win those other matchups and see if they can do it. Unfortunately, it was not the case, as Suning Gaming will lose game 1. But to take a look at that game, we are going to send it over to Neon's desk.
And it just was the EDG show from the start to the finish, all the way from picks and bans, where we saw iBoy pick up his signature Kog'Maw pick and just went to town with that.
Yeah, he absolutely destroyed everybody on Summoner's Rift. It hit a point at 20-odd minutes where he just walked down mid lane and the closest target was getting hit, and then they had to flash her right away. Honestly, it was pretty absurd how much damage he was doing, but it's not just the Kog'Maw, it's how they got to the Kog'Maw pick in the first place. And looking at EDG's composition, they picked the Kog'Maw third, and they had a very high priority on that pick. Now, they did get themselves the Camille Galio first, so you're looking at it and you're like, all right, fantastic. The composition has Camille Galio. Both go forwards, both engage. And then their third pick's a Kog'Maw. So, okay, things have changed here. They now have 2 directions that EDG could possibly go with their composition. And that's where things started to diversify even further for EDG, and why I really liked their composition by having Lulu in the end. Something that hasn't been seen often in the LPL. 3 picks total, 2 of them mid lane. The rest of the bans, all mid lane focused as well. And that's all for Doinby. So we very rarely get to see Lulu in the LPL, and now we get to see it with the Kog'Maw. So again, they've got a 2v2 of a Camille and a Galio. They've got a 2v2 of a Lulu and a Kog'Maw. Neither of those lose any 2v2 skirmishes, and Sion fits into all of it. Whether he's pushing, whether he's defending, he can do it all.
Yeah, pieces together very well. You have the tanky front line of the Sion. You have Camille able to separate the team, and Galio and Lulu protecting Kog'Maw during the team fights as well, providing all the damage reduction that he needed. The other side of Suning, though, seemed like they were drafting fine as well, but Jax just looked out of place. You still had Jarvan, who was the highest priority pick in the jungle at the moment. You still had Kha'Zix, you still had Zac as well. Neither one of these champions were picked up.
Yeah, and I don't even think this goes back to the Trinity Force anymore. I still agree with you, Frosker, and don't worry. It's the fact that Jax was there. He just doesn't need to be there. I honestly don't like him at the moment in the LPL because I don't think they're playing very well with it, or they're still not sure how the Jax works specifically. I think early game was fine from him, however. His pathing was decent. He was able to skirmish and 1v1 the Camille at points, and he looked okay there. But from that point, all he was really getting was vision, and that didn't really mean the difference in the end. So ultimately, the Jax pick, I think, could have been something else in the draft. Maybe could have been something that adds more to the team composition. And for me, that's the place that I'd be looking for Suning Gaming. Because if you're going to pick a Jax, you don't really need an Ezreal Corki to round out the composition. That doesn't really fit together seamlessly.
No, it did not. But as we approached towards the mid game, where we thought these two teams would be very powerful, we saw during laning phase, top side of map, mid lane, and jungle were kind of nullified. Not too much action here taking place there. EDG were very strong in the bottom lane, and a couple of ganks came out from the Jax in the bottom lane. But it led into the mid game where EDG just looked like they were much stronger, especially with a big flank that came out from Ray on his Sion that propelled them into that late game gold lead they had to pick up the win.
Yeah, a fight that happens at about 19 minutes and 30 seconds into the game after an Infernal Drake was taken. So Suning Gaming, they commit themselves fully towards getting the Drake, and Sion gets the best flank he could possibly find for himself. Does a lot of damage, and the Lulu ultimate could go on to Ray to keep him alive, and that does speak a lot towards how a fight's going to go if Kog'Maw is completely untouched and Lulu can use the ultimate on a tank. And this is Suning Gaming. It almost felt like at 19 minutes, understanding that they were in a very bad way, even though there was no massive gold lead reflected or anything. They just knew that the Kog'Maw was too strong. They needed the Infernal Drake also to deny that away from EDG from getting their second. And suddenly the game was aced, the Baron was taken, and the game was just over.
Yeah, they fought EDG exactly where EDG wanted them to as well. EDG are a team that, as much as both these teams want to fight during the mid-game, EDG want to fight you as 5. Suning, historically, they've been a team that want to split you up. They want to go into the 1-3-1, they want to go into the 1-4, but they weren't able to do so because it's such an early fight, and EDG capitalizing and punishing so hard with a Baron pick afterwards.
Yeah, and I will say to bring it back to, there are strengths from Suning Gaming in this game that I think I liked a lot. Honestly, when they were making trades throughout the game, reactively they were decent. Diving mid lane when there was something happening on the opposite side of the map. They were making smart moves that in the end were nice to see and kept them in the game a little bit closer as gold is concerned, but it was the rest of the game where it completely snowballed out. The 5v5s, the fact that their full composition didn't really have complete cohesion, and they were able to be torn apart.
For EDG though, when you protect the puppy, normally it's the puppy that comes out big, and he picks up MVP for game number 1 of EDG. Yes, he went away for Chinese New Year, ate a lot of food, became a little bit taller, picks up MVP, first game back.
51.3% of his team's damage, as you would expect, of course, in a Kog'Maw composition. The Galio was going pretty tanky, but that is a very high number, Fish. I absolutely agree. He was involved in most of the kills, and a lot of this was, you know, the bottom lane of Suning Gaming. They want the 2v2, the decision was right. They miss the execution on that 2v2, and suddenly the Kog'Maw's getting kills, Mako's getting kills, and when that Kog'Maw gets ahead, pretty unstoppable, as cheap as the items he has.
I mean, we were talking about SMLZ earlier on his Kog'Maw, but iBoy is definitely a man you have to watch out when he gets his hands on that champion, especially with EDG protecting him so well. We're going to go into a break, but Game 2 will be coming up shortly.